Backyard Prepper, and today we're going to be making sandwich bread. We're kind of doing it old school because we don't have we have a stand mixer, but we don't have the bread kneading paddle for it. So we're going to have to do the kneading by hand. But we went to the store the other day to get sandwich bread for the kids for sandwiches over the weekend, and only one loaf in the entire stinking store. And even then, you know, it went from a 79-cent loaf to now I think they're like $1.50. So that's almost like a 100% increase. So we're going to make our own, and we'll show you guys how to do it too. It's actually not that bad. So we're filming this on Saturday, and we'll probably release it either Sunday night or Monday once we get done with all the editing. So you're going to need a bunch of different things for making bread. First off, you're going to need some bread pans. Got two of them. Looks like these are Wilton bread pans. These are ones that we've had for a while. You know, this video, we're not sponsored by anybody on it. Everything that you're seeing is stuff that we purchased ourselves or already had or whatever. But you want to go with a little bit larger bread pan than like a 9-inch one. A lot of times they say do 9-inch loaves, which is great if you have like a small family, you know, just a couple people. But there's 9 of us that live here, so this right here, 2 loaves of bread like this will probably last one weekend. So you need to take that into account. You're also going to need water, sugar, salt. We use, for a lot of our baking and cooking, we use sea salt rather than iodized salt. Just a personal preference. You're going to need yeast, and for this recipe we're going to be using the instant yeast rather than the regular yeast, just because, you know, we don't want to take all day doing it. Don't need that. And our sauerkraut looks like it's about done, so we'll be bottling that up later today and getting it in the fridge. But you're going to need some vegetable shortening, just to lightly grease the pan. And you're going to need a large mixing bowl, butter, and flour. You know, and then like, you know, the random kitchen utensils like wood spoon, that kind of thing. Rolling pin if you have one. But we'll go into those other things once we get to those steps. So for right now, for this first part, we've got our large metal mixing bowl. And you want to use warm water to activate your yeast. Now, the recipe we're going off of makes 2 9-inch loaves. I'm actually going to be increasing the quantities a little bit because my pans are a little bit bigger. So I'm going to be probably doing enough, I'm making enough to, these are what, like 12 or 13-inch pans? Mm-hmm. So rather than the 9-inchers, I'm doing like a 12 or 13-inch pan. So I'll need to half over again, increase the quantities on the recipe. So I've got almost full cup of warm water. You don't want to use cold water, you want to use warm water. You're going to pour that in your bowl. You're going to take your sugar, and you're just going to add a couple pinches of sugar into the water. A lot of recipes don't include this step, but I found that it helps to activate the yeast better and it gives them something to eat during this first step. You just, I mean, they'll rise if you just put them in regular warm water, but you won't get as good a reaction. And the recipe called for 2 packs, so I'm doing a third since we're going to be going a little bit bigger on our loaves. So let me kind of swirl that around just to dissolve that little bit of sugar in the water. Then you're going to open up your yeast. Don't sniff it. It is baking yeast. It's harmless to people. But still, you don't want to like get that in your nose or anything. And the reason why I say that is because when I was a kid, my mom was baking some bread. My sister did that. She came up and opened one up and took a big sniff to see if it had a smell, and got a very minor yeast infection in her nose. I think she was like 6. So yeah, don't do that. Then just going to use a little fork and kind of mix it up. I think I need a little more liquid. That's right. Little mistake there. I increased the amounts. Everything else, but forgot to for this part, for the liquid, so just add a little more. Okay, and then that's it for that step. So now all we're going to do is we're going to let it sit for about 5, maybe 10 minutes tops to let it get, activate and get a good bubbly top to it. You'll know it's ready when you see it really starting to bubble and everything. That's the yeast eating the sugars that you put into the water. So once that's ready, we'll be back and go on to the next step. Alrighty, so been about 6 or 7 minutes, and our yeast is ready. Now the other thing you can do, another way you can tell if your yeast is activated, is it gives off a very distinctive, almost kind of like a very faint like beer scent. Very faint scent, but you can definitely tell. So the next part that we're going to do, do my little handy dandy recipe here. I did not grab my measuring cup. There's anything here. So now we add our ingredients and our water. And one other little change to the recipe that I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit of milk. It just kind of helps the bread bind together without getting heavy. And it's better to use whole milk. A lot of people, they don't like whole milk. They'll use like non-fat or whatever. But the thing is it's those fats that you need. So a little bit of whole milk in addition to the butter and everything. So, looking at our instructions here, out of Grandma's cookbook, I need, okay, so I'm going to be doing about a total of 12 cups of flour, roughly. So we just add these in, but I'm only going to start off with about half of the flour. So only about 6 cups of flour to get it started. You don't want to add all the flour at once, otherwise it makes it very difficult to work with. Okay, so there are 6 cups of flour to start. And we want to add in our butter. This is butter that we made using the little butter churn that you've seen in some of our previous videos. I think I'm going to use this one. Salt, it said 1 tablespoon of salt, so we're going to do 1.5. Since we're doing a larger batch than the recipe. Now let's see. Quarter cup sugar. Where did I put my quarter cup? Right there. Since we're doing a larger batch, we're going to go again, increasing all the amounts by half. And now, this is where you would use a stand mixer if you had one with the bread hook. We don't have that. So, now we get to stir. Pour in the water. Color. Can you give me 1 cup of milk, please? Yeah. There you go. Okay, and then this is the 1 cup of milk that I'm adding. Want to really mix it good, so Since if you're doing this by hand, you'll want to use either a wooden spoon or like a really firm spatula, like a mixing spatula or something. Now we're ready for our next cup of flour. So that puts us at 7 cups. And you just in circles. You'll notice it as you're doing this. It's going to start thickening up, start pulling away from the sides. That's what you want. You want to get it to a nice ball of dough. Okay, cup number 8. Connor,
Yeah.
do we have another metal bowl like this?
No.
We don't?
No.
Okay.
I can get that big white one.
So I need something heavy duty, because we're going to have to grease it and put it in to let it, and cover it to let it rise when we're done. So that's 8. Oh, that was unfortunate. Have to clean that off and fix it later.
Spoon?
No, looking for the flat one. Butter press. Well, we had a little bit of a hiccup. My little Dracula spatula, the head came off because how sticky the dough is becoming, which is a good sign. We're almost there. And this will probably be the last. We're pretty close to the last of the flour that we're going to add. So as you can see, we've got ourselves a big ball of dough. We're probably going to be doing one last bit of flour, which will put us at 11 cups, right where we need to be for the amounts that we're trying to make. Okay. So now we're going to get a bowl and lightly grease it and coat the dough in that, and then we'll let it sit covered for about 45 minutes to let it rise. And when we get to that step, because we're going to probably just reuse this bowl, so when we get to that part, we'll be back. Okay, so our dough is now ready to be allowed to rise. We had to do a quick cleaning on the bowl because this is like the only bowl we have that's big enough to hold this. So we lightly greased it. We got the dough in there, and now we're going to cover it with some saran wrap. Set it off to the side. You don't want it like cold, so you don't want to put it in the fridge. You also don't want it to get like too hot. So just cover it, set it off to the side, no drafts or anything like that, and it should be good to go. It needs to sit and rise for about 45 minutes to an hour. So once that's done, then we will go to the next step. Okay, so I'm sure you can see the bread is risen quite a bit. So we want to kind of get some of the air out. So we're just going to kind of pat it just a little, let it deflate a little bit. And then onto our little surface here. Yeah, it looks like it's still a little bit kind of stuck in. Can you bring me a cup of flour, Connor?
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of wanting to get the air out a little bit, make it a little more manageable for me to do this next part. Just going to use a little bit of flour, keep it from sticking everywhere. Oh, and I'm also going to need a knife. A big knife. I got to cut this in half. And if you hear sounds in the background, that's my daughter Maeve going out and watering the stuff out in front. So we're cutting in half because we're making 2 loaves. And we'll put that back in the bowl for the moment. And we're just going to kind of give it one good final kneading. Now, the pans that we're using are about 12-inch pans. We're going to kind of get it roughly 12 inches by 12 inches. Just kind of, roughly. It's not going to be perfect. And I mean, sit here, roll it out a little bit. Like that. And then what you do is we're going to start rolling it. Just like that. If you could bring me one of the pans, Connor. A little closer, just set it right there. Okay, so there's one. Do the same thing here. We're just gonna roll her up. Gotta keep it compact. Just like that. Looks like I didn't do a very good job cutting these actually in half. So that's okay though. We'll just go with it. Hold on one second, be right back. Actually, I think what I'm going to do, can you get a couple of the other metal bread pans out? I think I'm going to cut this down a little bit more. Take about a third off of this one. Can you see how big the pan is now? Okay, perfect. Then we'll do the exact same thing. He's going to grease those pans up really quick because we need to let these rise. One last time. I just need one. And what we're going to do is cover these with some saran wrap. Actually, I'll get that, Connor, if you could be in the camera. So we're going to cover these with saran wrap, and we're going to let them rise again for about another 30 minutes or so. And then once that's done, we'll come back and show them and get them in the oven. Okay, so we got them done with their second rise. As you can see, they're kind of puffed up now. I know one looks a little ugly, but it'll taste good anyways. So now we're going to take a little bit of melted butter. This is butter that we made with our butter churn. And just going to brush a little bit of butter on the top of each one. So, figure this little loaf, be fun for like making some garlic bread or something. Go through, just baste it with butter. We've already got our oven preheated to 400 degrees. We're going to leave the last little bit of butter for when they come out. Now, one thing you want to do when you're doing this is you want to lower your racks down as far as you can get them. Our oven tends to burn stuff all the way with the rack all the way at the very bottom, so I'm doing it on the next one up. Now we're just going to put these in. And we're going to set them to bake, and we'll set the timer for 30-ish minutes or so. That's when we'll check them. And then if we need to, we can give them a couple more minutes. So once we're at that point, we'll be back. Alrighty, so the timer went off. Now let's take a look and make sure that our bread is ready. You want it to be an internal temperature of about 195 degrees. So we'll just find a little place on the seam here. Let's see what that comes to.
Oh my god, that smells amazing.
I know. Yeah, and you can hear in the background the wife and one of the boys appreciating our work today. Yep, 195. Check this little one here. Yep, 195. And 195. So now all that's left to do is pull them out, let them cool. Actually, we're going to baste the tops with a little bit of butter. Let them cool, and then we'll slice them and get them into bags. Probably freeze one. Probably this little Mutant's loaf of bread. I'm not sure why this one kind of went all wonky, but there you go. Perfect loaf of sandwich bread. And we'll post some pictures of the finished product once it's cooled off and sliced up, and probably make a sandwich with it. So if you like our videos, share them with your friends, like, comment on them, subscribe to our channel, subscribe to our Instagram and Facebook as well, and share our videos with your friends. You can share them on Facebook, share them on Instagram. Just make sure that it shows it's us. Help our channel grow. We're a small channel. We're not any kind of big production. We're doing this right in our kitchen in our home. So, and if you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. And that's going to be it today for Vegas Backyard Prepper.